Hi, my name is Mr. Livers, and I'm the school counselor at Jack Northrop Elementary. Today, I am here to inform you on the topics of anxiety and depression in children. Anxiety and depression is common among children, especially during times like these. It's important to recognize the signs and symptoms early if your child is experiencing anxiety or depression. I have included a couple videos about this topic in this presentation. I will now have Dr. Kimberly Williams explain anxiety and depression and how it can affect your child.
While the symptoms of clinical depression in adults might be quite obvious, it's very different in children. Children who are depressed are often irritable, grouchy, moody, have difficulty with their peer relationships. They don't enjoy things that they usually would be very excited about. Sometimes they'll be isolated and seem to be withdrawn from family and their peers. Children who are depressed may not perform as well in school. There may be a decline in grades, or teachers may comment that they're struggling to stay focused and pay attention. Other things include them having a poor performance in sports or other extracurricular activities where they once performed very well. It's very easy sometimes for parents and other adults to overlook some of these signs and symptoms because it's commonly said, oh, well, this is adolescence and this is teenage years. However, if these signs and symptoms carry on for several months, it's important to get clinical intervention. Contact your pediatrician or school counselor or community professional to find a good clinical psychologist or psychiatrist for your child. So it's very important to pay attention to these signs and symptoms of childhood clinical depression.
Alrighty, so now we are getting ready to move on to our anxiety video, and this is also by Dr. Williams.
Generalized anxiety disorder, or GAD, is one of the most common types of anxiety disorders and affects a large amount of the population. General anxiety disorder is common, constant, and frequent worry about a wide variety of things that happen in day-to-day life. The worries or the anxieties are often irrational. For children with anxiety disorder, it's also the most common disorder in childhood. Children with anxiety disorder often are seen as worriers that are perfectionistic, afraid to try and do new things. They often ask a lot of questions that start, what if, or what happens when. Children don't often respond to the reassurance of their parent. When this occurs, there needs to be clinical intervention. General anxiety disorder is easily treated through medications and behavioral interventions. Although there are many other features to distinguish GAD, this is a brief overview of generalized anxiety disorder and how it might affect your child.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Williams. Now I will review the definitions of anxiety and depression. What is depression? Depression is a common medical illness that negatively affects how you feel and the way you think and how you act. Depression causes feelings of sadness and or a loss of interest in activities once enjoyed, and it can lead to a variety of emotional and physical problems and can decrease a person's ability to function at work and at home. Anxiety. What is anxiety? Anxiety is the mind and body's reaction to stressful, dangerous, or unfamiliar situations. It's the sense of uneasiness, distress, or dread you feel before a significant event. A certain level of anxiety helps us stay alert and aware, but for those suffering from an anxiety disorder, it feels far from normal. It can be completely debilitating. Now, moving on to the signs and symptoms. If your child is just experiencing depression, they may be irritable, moody, they might have difficulty with peer relations, they might be isolated, withdrawn, and they might show low school performance. If your child is experiencing anxiety, they may show you common, constant, and frequent worry. They may start off a lot of their statements with what if or what happens next. They might seem irrational. They could also be a perfectionist. And last but not least, they could be afraid to try something new. Like I said, if you think that your child may be experiencing any of these signs and symptoms, please reach out to mental health professionals. Some quick resources that Dr. Williams went over. If you feel like your child is experiencing any of these symptoms or signs, you can reach out to your school counselor, your school psychologist, community professionals, or other outside professional services. Just like Dr. Williams said, reach out to mental health professionals. Remember, it is important to catch the signs early so that intervention can be done and started as early as possible. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Megan Laux. I'm the school counselor for Mariposa Computer Science Magnet, and I'm going to take over the second half of this presentation. I'm going to be talking about how to help your children cope with COVID-19 related anxiety and depression. So life changes can cause anxiety and depression in children and adults, but this pandemic and school going virtual is definitely a life change that they may be struggling with. It can also feel like a bit of a loss because they no longer see their friends and their teachers regularly. But children respond to stress and anxiety in different ways than adults do. So some children may become more clingy, or the opposite of that, they might withdraw completely from you and others. They might also become angry or agitated, and they may also regress a little bit and begin wetting the bed. So the way that parents respond to their child's concerns make a very big difference in how well children can cope with anxiety and depression. So responding to your child's reactions in a supportive and positive way really goes a long way. So make sure that you listen to their concerns and give them some extra love and attention, even though you may be just as frustrated or struggling with the pandemic as well. So here are some specific ways that we can help children cope. Like bouncing off of the last slide, just trying to make sure that you give your children some extra love and some extra attention because this is a really hard time for everyone. You can also make sure that you're listening to your children when they express their worries and concerns, no matter how small or big they may be. Just feeling like they are heard by someone and someone is there for them will go a really long way. So try to speak kindly and reassure them that although things are a little crazy at the moment, overall, we'll be okay. And be forgiving with your kids and yourself. You are stressed and frustrated the same way they are. We're all going through a lot. So making sure that you're okay with people making mistakes and trying to move on from that rather than, being hard on yourself or on them. Just being open and being forgiving will really be helpful for both of you. And if possible, try to make opportunities for your kids to play and to relax. Social distancing doesn't require you to stay in your home 24 hours a day. If the weather's nice, go outside and play, even if it's just for a few minutes. You can also do some virtual meetups and play dates online through Zoom or things like that. Like I said, try to go outside when possible. You can also make that a nice time for you as well. You can read a book or hang out in the sun while your kids are playing outside and try to make it nice for both of you. Plan activities to help pass the time. When you're doing something and you feel involved, it's a little bit easier to not feel so anxious or so depressed. So planning activities such as game night with the family or doing puzzles or eating your meals together, things like that to really help you feel connected to your kid and for them to feel connected to you will help. You can also limit time spent on social media and watching the news. Too much negative information really is detrimental for both of us. I was told that if something big happens and you really need to know about it, someone will find a way to tell you. We don't have to be glued to our phones 24/7, even though that's like what we're inclined to do. Um, but we'll stay informed even if we're not on our phone all the time. Also, keeping a regular routine. I know this is incredibly hard with kids being out of school and some parents being out of work or working from home. Our previous routines have been thrown out the window pretty much. But you can keep your family's morning, mealtime, bedtime routines a little bit consistent. And this consistency will help your kids just feel like things are a little more regular and not as crazy. And it might help you too with your day. Try to avoid separating the family. I know this may be hard if some people need to quarantine because they were exposed or they need to be hospitalized for various reasons. But if that does happen, just try to ensure regular contact and reassurance. Keeping the family unit together and making them feel comfortable goes along with that routine for stability. Just trying to keep as much the same as we can in the home will be most beneficial. Your children have noticed that things are different and we've changed the way that we interact with others and the ways we behave, but they might not necessarily know why. And not knowing can be another component to their anxiety. So answering their questions and explaining why we can't get too close to others or why we're wearing masks rather than just telling them no can alleviate some anxiety. Kids are a lot smarter than we give them credit for. So being honest and open with them and answering their questions and giving them facts can help them feel a little bit more in control rather than just watching things happen from the outside and not knowing why. So providing them with information about how they can reduce their risk of being infected in a developmentally appropriate way can go a long way for making them feel like they're in control, and that might reduce some anxiety and depression in them. And last but not least, you need to make sure that you're taking care of yourself as well. In the airplane, they always say, make sure you put your mask on before you can help anybody else. And it's the same thing here. You're better able to be there for your children and to help them cope if you are also taking care of yourself. So trying to incorporate some me time throughout your day, whether it's like reading a book or just having a moment of quiet, and then also doing some self-care regularly can help you take care of yourself so you can take care of them. You can check in with yourself and with your partner about how you're handling the stress as a parent. If you're stressed and frustrated, you might be snapping more or not as patient or lenient. And that's understandable, but we do need to make sure that we are aware of those things so those don't get out of hand. Because if you can't handle the stress as a parent, your children will notice and they will have a harder time handling the stress themselves. Also communicate with your child about how you're feeling. If you're a little worried or you're a little stressed, it might make them feel better knowing that you feel that way rather than them thinking that they are the only ones that have those feelings. So being honest again, just checking in with everyone, making time to speak for you and your child can go a very long way. Right. Thank you for joining with this training. We're hoping that it's helpful. Stay safe and healthy.